this great move with Nichiren Buddhism. Nichiren Buddhism never put himself first. He put himself up. What he spent inside his life saying was, you can develop all the same qualities that I've done. In that sense, we're fellow men with Nichiren Buddhism. But of course, because of the incredible mission and the importance of, we utterly respect him. For his life, again explained yesterday, exists in the God. I'm striving with love. True practicing. It's like going every day to Nichiren Buddhism's guidance. In other words, we're looking at his life. I was thinking yesterday, how have I developed myself? Everything is through sense. Absolutely everything. But it's not that he's ever sat down and taught me Buddhism. Everything is truth. To begin with, the struggle to relate to him, I started to chant Daimoku a little every day for his help, for his protection. That was the beginning. Then his guidance, everything he wrote became more and more meaningful. And I began to realize that if I followed that guidance, I proved it. I never proved him wrong. Then, as time passed, I met him. Then at the beginning of those periods of meeting him or seeing him, it was like confirmation. All the old doubts came out before. Nothing else but Sanshima creating doubts in one. Then when you actually see him, this feeling comes up. No one else can be the person who will knows except this person. Even Mr. Hojo, who was president of Southern Ghana, once doing Gongya with his Wednesday. Papers. I think it was in his house. Anyway, Mr. Hojo returned after and said to me, a person who could be ridiculous about something, wouldn't it? And I knew exactly how it felt. Like always confirming it. Then the next stage was to actually be able to be sometimes the sensei when he's doing it. I learned from everything he did. I learned from the way he shook people's hands, or the way he treated children, or the way he spoke to a pregnant mother. I couldn't even understand what he was saying, and I didn't always have an interpreter, but just intuitively you learn. So what you're learning is the desirability of opening your Buddhist state so that you can reveal the same qualities as he's revealed. So then you discover that every minute and moment step he's creating that in so many different ways, all at once. But this is not a conscious thing. He's not thinking, oh, this time I must speak to so-and-so. When I talk to so-and-so, I talk that one. Responsibly, this bubble is go out. So it's not. It's just he cares. And because his wisdom is flowing, he just does the right thing, or he looks in the right way at somebody. He does everything, flows from his life. Goodness, this is what we want, isn't it? To be able to have that total relationship with Nam-myoho, so that without exerting our minds at all, our life is just flowing out to everybody in the way that it's doing. Oh, a piece of breath away, very important. So this is, the challenge. Sensei struggled with his own human revolution in order to reach that point. We can all reach the same point, not in the same way as Sensei, but our lives flow out to others in exactly the same way. through our efforts to our human evolution. So this is the fruit of the master and disciple relation. And of course, my master is Nichiren Buddhism. I share that great devotion with Sensei, right? But so far as Kosen Rufu in this present time is concerned, my master is Sensei. Not in the sense that I stand for attention while he gives me orders. Of course not. He's teaching all the time. Just like he's teaching 10,000 other people all the time. So the master gives everything from his life. And the disciple absorbs it. Then the disciple, standing in his own environment and circumstances, brings it out in the best possible way to suit those circumstances through the wisdom and power of numbering. This is the master and disciple. You understand? So in other words, the disciple has to be as great or even greater. This is what the master is aiming at. Because the disciple has to stand alone, wherever it may be, London or Newcastle or Cornwall or Wales, Kent. He has to stand alone and develop Kosen Rufu to do his own or her own human evolution on their own. This is where the master-disciple relationship in Buddhism is so totally different. Disciples are not standing in the shadow of the master. Disciples want to go out and do it alone. And that is why the master is always trying to make them greater than himself. This is the point. Sensei at this very moment is thinking of Kosen Rufu in 50 years or 100 years' time. So he is always working towards creating people who could take the load of that time. When the difficulties and problems, scope and extent is far greater than it is now. This was Mr. Toda's part, to give Sensei everything so that he could take the load in the future. And so the transmission of teachings in the law goes from one person to another, doesn't it? The Goshen said the master is like the needle, and the disciple is like the thread. So the master guides through his example. He guides the disciple or the thread to the point where it fulfills its mission. In the picture of Kosen Rufu or a tapestry of Kosen Rufu as a whole. Then the needle is withdrawn, and the disciple, the thread, does its work in the picture of life. You understand? This is the master and son relationship in Buddhism. And this paragraph, Mr. Dashan also says there is no discrimination, of course, amongst the disciples. How can there be discrimination? Or shouldn't be, shouldn't. Because each one of us reveal the true entity of Nam-myoho-renge. Each one of us are Buddhas who can share in this understanding. So for me, slander someone who's doing the same thing is a terrible thing. The worst possible cause I can know. This is why we suffer when we're learning, doing our human revolution, we're getting rid of these poisons from our lives, isn't it? We find out that these one of us disliking something. We, sorry to say, hating something. But of course we get punished. We suffer retribution in one way or another. So everybody is equal. Men, women, black, white, pink, yellow. Everyone is equal. Priest, lay person, all equal. whatever background it may be. But then Nichiren says, only I, Nichiren, first chanted Nam-myoho-renge-kyo, such famous words, and they're really so beautiful because we know that the same thing can happen. First one, then two, then 100. But Nichiren, of course, did not appear by accident in this world. This was his purpose and mission as the first person to teach his fellow beings how to attain Buddhahood in this world in one life. That is his job. Your job may be to be the first person. Teach the people in Newcastle or Cumberland or some village in the Peak District, Devon or Cornwall or wherever. Your job may be the first person. Teach people to reveal their true entity, to reveal their Buddhahood in that particular place or area. So, of course, too, we didn't appear by accident. If we believe in the least bit in cause and effect, we must have made the cause in a past life to be where we are now. It's got a sentence of there, mustn't it? We chose to be in England and to be in Durham or Newcastle or Southampton or where. This we chose. Don't ask me how. But if you believe in cause and effect, we must have done. You get a sort of inkling of that. In the case of my own wife, Mitsuko, who is Japanese, when she first visited Yorkshire, she felt this extraordinary connection with Yorkshire. She never connected it with a past life, isn't it? Because she's quite a practical person. But she felt the connection. Then, years after we made our first visit there, she said, I never told you. But when we went over that bridge, wherever it was, I knew exactly what I was going to see when we got round the corner the other side. It's really weird, isn't it? So, of course, she, in past lives, she must have lived there. That she's becoming increasingly sure. So we make the calls. Well, I've often said, you've heard me say, so I won't dwell on it. I know that I'll be making my calls, very, very soon. Where I want to be in my next. Certainly to be here. Certainly I want to be sensitive. Certainly I want to be with lots of you again. To continue the work in this country. Maybe sometime in future lives I shall think, well, we've done enough now. Let's go somewhere else. I'll leave it to the Buddha. So nothing is by accident. We made the promises for the Satsya. We're born in the mud and slush so that we can prove the power of the gods into ours. If we were born with a label for the surface of the earth on it, people would never relate to the Buddha. Well, what's that for? Some sort of thing. But because we're born back with problems and suffering, therefore people can relate. So we agreed to that too. Of course, we created our karma through the fact that we've been born in previous lifetimes without bonds, and had to find them. That's how we created our karma in a very natural way. Nichiren also had to create karma of being born into the rest and slandering the Lotus Sutra. So he had to start with it, didn't he? Therefore, it was inevitable to begin with. He was practicing Buddhist teachings which were heretical in terms of true Buddhism. And it's inevitable he went through the sufferings that he did in order to establish the true teachings. That was his kind. But that was, an example for all of us as well. So many of us, all of us chanted in the past for some time. How many years ago, or whether it was in a recent lifetime, we have no idea. But something was getting an ancient. Then Nichiren Buddhism goes on with this clear firm state. propagation will unfold this way in the future. Doesn't this signify emerging from the earth? At the time of Christmas, the entire Japanese nation will chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo surely as an arrow aimed at the earth, cannot miss the time. And in other cases, of course, he says Japan and the whole world are the words to that effect. So, as I've said many times recently, no place does Nichiren Buddhism predict any form of Holocaust. On the contrary, he says, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, person neutral will occur as sure as an arrow aimed at the earth. This I believe totally. And because I believe it, this is a driving force, I think, me, to always exert myself, maintain my efforts, no matter what. We must believe this. If you have members who are still jittering with fear, and people are jittering with fear at the nuclear holocaust or whatever, you have to believe. You must believe the Buddha. Who else can you believe if you can't believe the Buddha? We prove what the Buddha says every day of our lives. We prove everything written in the Kosha is correct, isn't it? Step by step, we're proving it all the time. So how can we disbelieve anything the Buddha says? But we have to encourage others to believe as well. So this is, our role, isn't it? As bodhisattvas. So sometimes you read UK Express, the Sacred Times, or in Guidance from Japan, the tolerance of bodhisattvas of the earth. That's only a polite way of putting it. We are bodhisattvas of the earth. We're followers of the leaders of the bodhisattvas. The four great leaders, of which Jojo was the main one. So in that sense, we're followers of those great bodhisattvas. But as followers, we are bodhisattvas. That's just a respectful way of recognizing the leadership of Nichiren Daishonin, which Nichiren Shoshin priests like to be sure is always correct. That's why that's termed followers of the bodhisattvas are very often in writing. Right, let's go on.
But now you must build your reputation as a devotee of the Lotus Sutra and devote yourself to it. Shakyamuni Buddha and Taho Buddha seated in the treasure tower in the air, surrounded by all other Buddhists and Bodhisattvas, nodded in agreement. What they decided upon was solely for the perpetuation of the true law throughout the latter day. Taho Buddha had offered Shakyamuni Buddha a place beside him, and when they unfolded the banner of Myoho Renge-kyo, the two leaders of the entire multitude made their decision together. Could there have been anything false in their decision? Their ultimate purpose in meeting was to provide a way for all us ordinary people to attain Buddhahood. Although I was not at that ceremony, in looking at the sutra, this is crystal clear. On the other hand, I may have been at the ceremony, but since I am a common mortal, it is beyond my power to know the past. There is no doubt, however, that in the present life I am the devotee of the Lotus Sutra, and that in the future I will therefore reach the seat of enlightenment. Judging the past from this point of view, I must have been at the ceremony in the earth. There can be no discontinuity between past, present, and future.
Thank you. So the ceremony in the air, which is described in the Lotus Sutra, as I said yesterday, is an allegorical story. It's the way in which Shakyamuni Buddha depicted the transmission of the true great law of Buddhism into the future in the age of the latter day, or Mappa, which is the age we live in now. So, of course, from that aspect, that is very important to all of us. And as I said yesterday, in fulfilling, Nichiren Daishonin fulfilled the predictions of Shakyamuni as votary of the Lotus Sutra, as described in the Lotus Sutra. And also, he established direct flow of Buddhism, Shakyamuni to himself, by arranging the Gohonzon, or inscribing the Gohonzon, in a way which exactly matched the ceremony of the air, which Shakyamuni Buddha described. So when we're tapping to the Gohonzon, it's as if we're in the ceremony of the air. So in the ceremony of the air, all the bodhisattvas appeared out of the ground. When Shakyamuni said, "Who will spread the true great law in the dreaded age of Mata?" And then all his disciples, Shakyamuni's disciples, said they wanted to do it. But he said, "No, none of you have the abilities to do that." And as he said that, all these tens of thousands of people came out of the ground, appeared out of the ground. And he said, "These are the people who will spread the law in the age of Mata. That is us. Those who appear from nowhere, finding the Dharmas in the most strange and odd ways very often." So when we do Ganga, we are taking part in that eternal ceremony. We are reaffirming that we are bodhisattvas of the earth and that we will fulfill our task as such. So, of course, this was Mr. Toda's great realization when he was in prison. It's probably quite difficult to realize that in those days, during World War II, still the Gospel hadn't been compiled in detail. So there was very little guidance available to anybody, including even Mr. Toda. So, but in prison, Mr. Toda started to chant 10,000 Daimoku every day. Remember, those of you who have read the story. And he made juzu out of milk bottle tops. Every day he chanted and chanted and chanted. Something driving him on to do so. At the same time, he had no reading material except the Lotus Sutra. And he kept on saying, "I don't want that book. Please take it away." And it always came back to him. So he puzzled reading the Lotus Sutra and chanting his 10,000 Daimoku with his milk bottle tops. And then one day, he had this amazing experience of the ceremony in the air. He saw the ceremony in the air in his mind, and he knew intuitively that he was there. But actually, what he was not Mr. Toda, a businessman, school teacher, also with Mr. Matrucci, forming a sort of guidance. But also he realized much deeper than that. He was a bodhisattva here. So we had all the go from it. We learned this very early. But for him, this was an incredible realization. And it was through that realization that he came out of the prison and fulfilled his purpose and never stopped exerting himself, no matter what, to launch the movement because the movement in the world. Okay?
Because I view things this way, I feel measurable tonight, even though I am now in exile. Joy as well as sorrow brings us to tears. Tears express our feeling for both blessings and misfortune. The 1,000 arhats shed tears in memory of the Buddha, and in tears, Bodhisattva Monju chanted Myoho Renge Kyo. From among those 1,000 arhats, the Venerable Ananda replied in tears, "Thus I heard." Thereupon the tears of all the others wetting their inkstones, and they wrote Myoho Renge Kyo, followed by "Thus I heard." I, Nichiren, now feel exactly as they did. I am now in exile because I spread the teaching of Myoho Renge Kyo. I spread this teaching because I too heard thus. Shakyamuni Buddha and Taho Buddha left Myoho Renge Kyo for the Japanese and all people in the future. I cannot pray.
Sorry, what?
Next chapter.
Oh, I see. Right. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, one button. Wow.
I cannot hold back my tears when I think of the great persecution confronting me now, or when I think of the joy of attaining Buddhahood in the future. Birds cry, but never shed tears. I, Nichiren, do not cry, but my tears flow ceaselessly. I shed my tears not for the worldly affairs, but solely for the sake of the Lotus Sutra. So indeed, there must be tears of Amrita. The Nirvana Sutra states that while the tears one sheds throughout his many existences on the death of his parents, brothers, sisters, wives, children, and followers may surpass the quantity of water in all the seas, who eats not a drop for Buddhism. One becomes a votary of a Lotus Sutra by virtue of his practice in past existences. It is karmic relationships that determine which among so many of the same kind of trees are made into images of Buddha. It is also because of karma that some Buddhas are born as provisional ones.
Thank you. So, as I explained yesterday, there's no need to go over it again. Shakyamuni Buddha was born before Nichiren Buddhism with a purpose. He's known as a transient or provisional Buddha. Also, there were other Buddhas, such as Tiantai, who were born before Nichiren Buddhism in order to develop teachings towards the point in the rhythm of life where Nichiren Buddhism was born. So Nichiren Buddhism here is saying how he feels such incredible gratitude at his own mission. He had this amazing purpose of being the first person to reveal the true entity of life, none more than himself, to others. Therefore, he felt like weeping in tears. Mr. Toda was in it when he was in prison, also wept tears of gratitude when he came to his realization that he was a bodhisattva of the earth. Maybe you also, for some unaccountable reason, have wept tears in front of the bondsman and wondered why. It's the same thing deep in your life, gratitude of discovering that you are truly a bodhisattva of the earth. And by some amazing piece of good fortune, you understand the true entity of life. This is why it overwhelms us. Sensei once said, when we are awakened to our mission and the true entity, when we are awakened to our mission as bodhisattvas of the earth and to the true entity of our lives, we too will feel infinite power welling forth from within us. It's opening our lives, isn't it? It's what we were talking about earlier. Letting go. Revealing our true entity or identity and casting aside our calcitriol in a shallow sense where we were saying carrying out some particular function as a businessman or whatever. But deep below that, you're a bodhisattva sphere. When we can open ourselves totally to that fact and realize that we can't be happy and fulfilled unless we're totally giving ourselves in that role as bodhisattva sphere. When we do that, of course, then this whole power and qualities of the Buddha said absolutely surges through us all the time. But we cling on, as we were saying. We have to jump like certain those from the tree. Often we've said in the past, no good holding on to the twig at the back. Certain those who jump into the demon's mouth, so the story goes, because he wanted to learn more about Buddhism. He was prepared to open up or give his whole life. We are always holding on so often to the twig at the back, not quite opening up, not quite thinking that it's going to change our lives. It's not going to change us. It's the bodhisattva of the earth. It's going to fulfill us. We still carry on as mothers or doing the job we're doing or whatever. We still go off for a summer holiday if we want to. If you still go to a movie, if you like, you can still get drunk sometimes. But it's giving ourselves, isn't it? It's about purpose in life. Opening up our lives to totally understand. So this Toda wrote a poem, Sensei, in those early days. He said, now in bud is the mystic bond which we form the bow. Let it come into full bloom, stout-hearted and magnificent. So there is a mystic bond between all of us. Yes, between Sensei and Toda, also between all of you and me and between each other. Not by chance, either you came on this course. This is the mystic bond of old, the eternal bond of the Bodhisattva of the earth. So As the Pope said, let it come into full bloom, not half bloom. Full bloom. Half of the negatives.
In this letter, I have written my most important teachings. Grasp their meaning and make them part of your life. Believe in the Gohonzon, the supreme object of worship in the world. Forge strong faith and receive the protection of Shakyamuni, Tahoe, and all the other Buddhas. Exert yourself in the two ways of practice and study. Without practice and study, there can be no Buddhism. You must not only persevere yourself, you must also teach others. Though practice and study arise from faith, teach others to the best of your ability, even if only a single sentence of praise. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. With my deep respect, Nichiren.
Thank you. So really, Nichiren by saying in this paragraph, is the style of that God is saying, don't mess about. There's no messing about. You've really got to do it. Then you'll become one. So he then explains the three practices. Exert yourself in the three practices. Gongro and binocular. Doesn't say that here. In other Goshen does it. In the reciting the two chapters of the sutra. And chanting binocular. Teaching others. As I've already explained, we teach others in two ways. This is the movement of Shakabuku and also the movement of Tantra education. For those who can't actually really practice, we try to open our minds and their lives to Buddhism. Begin to think in a Buddhist way. No, nothing. It's not easy being a Bodhisattva here. My goodness, it's working. So in Gosha called on the treasure time, passage that I often quote, where Nichiren Buddhism said, you may think you offered gifts to the treasure time of Tahoe Buddha, but that is not so. You offered them to yourself. There is no self-sacrifice in Nichiren Buddhism, unless we create that self-sacrificial attitude in our own lives. If we do our activities wholeheartedly, we offer the Buddha, we offer our lives, or we offer money to come on this course, or we offer money to open that building over there, we offer our time and energy to support activities, to support our districts and our groups. We could have a self-sacrificial attitude, doing this for duty, doing this because it's expected of, doing this because my leader tells me I should. That is not, the right thing. We're doing it for ourselves. You may think you offered gifts to the treasure tower of Tahoe Buddha, but that is not so, Nichiren Buddhism says with such firmness. You offer them to yourself. In other words, the benefit always flows back in abundance, whatever effort one makes, personally, through the Lord of faith. As I often say, it's not two practices or one practice, it's three practices. If the doctor gives you your medicine, says that you've got to take 3 spoonfuls every day, and you only take 1, you can't blame anybody, including the doctor, if the medicine doesn't work. It's 3 spoonfuls. That's the treatment. That's really what we have to do in order to fulfill our life. So, this is how Nichiren finally ends the discussion with the practicality of taking forward movement for peace and happiness in this world. So let's go from this course, taking forward that same spirit, that same understanding, and then sharing with everyone when we get back this experience, remembering that we all can share, because every one of the members of one group or district is able to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and therefore is revealing the true entity of their life. Therefore, you are talking as Buddha to Buddha, and they will understand and get something great from what we say. We go forward, we will go forward. Thank you very much.